This is Radio ITVT, and I'm Tracy Swedlow. The following is part 2 of a conversation I had with Mike Gaston, the CEO of Cut.com, an innovative production company in Seattle. He discusses all sorts of things, such as where their money goes, organic growth, scaling, what kind of content they produce, the platforms that they work with, monetization, and the direction they're going to go in the future, and much more. I hope you enjoy it. What amount of your budget or which, how do I phrase this? Your higher priorities are they putting, having a technology or process to find the right content team, like you did the session at the June show, how to mobilize a content team? Is that where your money goes, or is it the production, or is it maybe it's managing social media and marketing? I mean, like, those are sort of 4 different line items, I would say, right, on a budget.
Yeah.
Where are all your efforts going in terms of your financial investment?
So this is going to sound super corny, but we have a thing that our technology, we've internally called it magic.
Okay.
The idea behind magic is to do exactly what I was describing a second ago, which you also just said, which is, how do we cultivate this talent? How do we collect these ideas and then filter them? And then how do we execute upon these ideas? And then how do we essentially inculcate this culture and this mindset into the people that we hire on?
Then
right?
How much do you pay all these people to show up? I mean, not necessarily.
Exactly.
I'm sort of kidding, but maybe, I don't know.
What you'd be surprised is, like, we, again, we're net profitable, but we haven't done that at the sacrifice of paying people a real salary or of paying the talent that actually comes in. Like, we actually pay people to be in our videos because, it's their time. And then we pay a real salary to the people that work here. I mean,
a real salary.
Yeah, if you saw what people are getting paid out in some of these major companies, and you saw what they were getting paid here to work in a media company in Seattle, you'd be surprised. Like, we pay very well. And I think that's part of it, is like, you have to, the goal is not to create just a bunch of stuff. Like, the goal is to create things that actually have impact. And so you want to, if you can, find the right people who are going to come in and can be shaped by the thing that you're trying to make.
Well, so you would say that your money goes into hiring the right talent and just in general running, having a good team.
Yeah.
But then how much of your profits, which let's discuss in a minute, go into social media, and things like that? Do you feel like that is really, really key? It's sort of tweeting out that this is happening and tweeting out that's happening, and digital marketing and all that kind of complicated stuff? Or do you just launch those videos out there and let programmatic advertising have its way? Tell me a little bit about that.
So we've only hired a channel manager as of like 3 weeks ago. Until then, we didn't have anyone even focused on managing any of our feeds regularly. And like that, I'm not saying that as in a look at how good we are, we've never really leveraged social media. I'm saying that in terms of, like, that's how under-resourced we are, is that's never been a major part of our success. The truth is, we've never paid for advertising on Facebook or any of that kind of stuff. Like, literally, it's all organic. All the spread has been organic. When we launched This Matters,
that's the political
brand. When we talked about it, we were talking to a bunch of people who were telling me that what I wanted to do wouldn't work, right? Like, they go, well, there's a lot of best practices for Facebook, and the type of video that you're trying to produce just isn't going to do well. And the type of video I did, the first video that we launched, is a piece called Racism is a Mental Health Issue. And it's a 6-minute video essay with me narrating. And it's and you have to watch it with the video, with the sound on, to really get it. And again, it's on racism, right? So when I showed this to industry people, they were telling me this isn't going to do well. We launched it on a channel, on a Facebook page with 0 fans, literally 0 fans. The only seed was people here sharing it on their personal feeds. That video got 27 million views before it hit a steady state, and it still does well. I think it's probably it might be around 30 million views at this point, but it did it all on its own. There was no money put behind it, no real push behind it. And our point to that was that no one knows best practices, right? Like no one knows what people are really going to want. Like what you need to do is produce work that it actually gives people something of value. And then if you do that, then they will share it. It's really that simple. And so social media is very important to us. Doing well on Facebook is very important to us, but we haven't done it in the same way that a lot of these other companies that have a lot more money have done it, which is putting people in place to really just constantly tweet out or pay for Facebook campaigns or that kind of thing.
Why does Facebook work so well for you?
I think Facebook works so well because it's just a natural sharing engine, right? Like, I think YouTube is a wonderful space. I think what you get are people who are going to see, like very few of our audience actually goes to our page to watch our views. Most of them are finding it in what's related to the thing that they're already watching. It's really great for embeds and that kind of thing. But people treat Facebook like to them, it's the internet. It's the internet, only smaller, right? Like the internet's been consolidated inside of Facebook. Your feed is the way it is, and it's just very easy to share. And when it's nice is like there's a social proof that's there. When your friend shares a piece and they're passionate about the piece, then you're likely to want to watch it too. And then if you like it, then you're going to share it too. So it creates like this ripple effect that's really powerful. So that's how we've done well on Facebook, I think.
And to go back about the business for a second, you said you are profitable through programmatic advertising, but is Facebook or YouTube? I mean, are they equally? They're not equally giving you the same cut. I mean, how does that work exactly?
It's actually
across all your networks. You also do Instagram and.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like we don't make any money off Instagram, although we have a decent size kind of like network of micro influencers built out of Hi-Ho. Like my son, my 4-year-old son, I think has 60,000 followers now on Instagram. It's very weird.
He's cute.
But like as far as money, you definitely get a different breakout from YouTube than you do from Facebook. We make money off both platforms. Right now, it's actually pretty even in terms of the amount of total views we're getting on YouTube and the amount of total views we're getting on Facebook across Hi-Ho and Cut. And then when it comes to the money, it's pretty even. We still get most of our money from YouTube, although we're getting a really good amount from Facebook now too.
And do you get contacted by the big networks, the legacy networks, and to say, hey, you want to do some business together? Do you want to just, develop this or distribute that? We've
had those conversations. I think the things like we're open to it. Yeah, like I'm not going to name any specific networks, but we've definitely pursued a few. I think the thing for us is, although we would like to do something in television, something more long form, it's really because we want to accelerate our digital brands. I think the difference between us and like most people working online is that we don't aspire to be on TV or to make movies. Like we like our environment. Like this is where we think the party is. And so if the development process is too slow, it just becomes distracting to us. Like if we want to make something, we want to make it now, which is the power of doing it online, right? Like if you go through the legacy networks, like it's just so many people, so many gatekeepers. It's a long, drawn out process. Everything instantly becomes way more expensive, often for reasons I don't even understand, so it's, we're open.
A lot of decision makers.
Yeah, but they got to move with speed and intention. And I think right now, the thing about those networks is that what often happens is you'll get an internal champion who's like, we got to work with these guys. And then you'll work with them for a few months, maybe 6 months, and then they'll move on to another network. or to another platform or something. Now you don't have an internal champion, right? And if you don't have that, then you might as well just have withered on the vine. So and that's kind of the thing that I've noticed like several times as we've gone through kind of like that loop. And so now I'm a little bit not as focused about doing that until we get someone who's like, no, let's really do this. We're really going to commit to making this happen. Because otherwise it's just it's a huge drain on a team that's only about 20 something people.
Do you need to scale? Since you don't want to work with these big legacy networks, do you want to scale? Do you need to scale? I mean, do you want to scale quickly? Those are several questions.
I think scale is absolutely important. I think one of the things that we noticed is that once we started producing content regularly, and we're not producing output at the scale of say a BuzzFeed or a Vox or any of those guys. Like we're producing about 70 videos a month right now. We could do more, but that feels like a pretty good amount to do. Once we started doing that, we saw like a huge increase in our views and engagement. Like these platforms started surfacing our work a lot more as we started producing a lot more. So I think there is definitely a component to producing a lot more stuff. That being said, I'm not, like we're kind of the redheaded stepchild of the the digital media company.
Hey, my mom is redheaded. Hey, go ahead.
In the sense that we're in Seattle, number one, and we just don't want to move in the same way that everybody else does. I don't want to get on a train where suddenly I've taken on a crazy amount of money that has created an impetus on me to scale at a crazy speed, at a speed that I can't possibly sustain, and then puts me in a position where now I'm forced to make a bunch of desperate moves to prove to my investors that I'm actually getting some progress. And that is, so for us, like the big deal this year was to prove we could get to net profitable off of programmatic. We're like, if we do that, then we can move at our own pace. We don't need to act with a sense of desperation. Like we can choose who our partners are going to be. So even though I definitely want to scale, I want to get much bigger. I want my work to have a huge impact on culture. And to do that means to get to a certain size. I'm not going to sacrifice, like developing a company that can actually be successful in the long term in order for some kind of short-term gain.
Do you want more investors?
Yeah, like we're going to plan on raising our Series B probably in the at the end of the first or second quarter of next year, and we're already having conversations with different groups. Yeah, absolutely, I would love to have some other strategics in the mix that could have an impact on helping us get bigger faster. They just got to be right. We want to make sure that we have the right team.
I want to go back to the sort of scale or growing what you're doing topic issue. All right, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all these questions in my head at the same time, trying to articulate the words to communicate. What I'm saying is how do you want to grow? Do you want to grow by generating more content on new platforms, VR, watches, cars? Is that an area you want to, move into? Or is growth really about new shows like, Parents Explain and On Killing, Lineup, or Hi-Ho things? In other words, coming up with more of these impactful social pieces, or is there some other form of growth? Do you want to make interactive programming? Do you want to make science programming? I mean, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking about exploring, if you can, if you're willing to say.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it in terms of if there is like a timeline, and there's 3 points on the timeline, and on the left corner was legacy, and in the middle is short form, and in the far right is, let's call it new form, right? And new form can be VR, AR, whatever, like things that we can't even think of right now. And you could see money as like a declining slope that starts in the high left-hand corner and kind of goes down to the lower right-hand corner. And that's where the money is. The money still is largely in legacy. And then there's money in short form. And then there's a little bit of money in VR. And then what's going to happen is it's going to slowly start to move in the other direction, right? Like as the money in legacy goes down, the money in short form goes up, the money in new form goes up too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing for us is we want to own short form premium content. We want to create some legacy media work, again, like I said, to accelerate our digital brands, because there's still a huge audience in the legacy side. So even though, you know, we still want to do some pieces there, the goal isn't to just shift to legacy. The goal is to maybe make a few pieces there. And then to experiment in new form. I think you have to, because that's all part of managing strategic uncertainty. You don't know what the next thing is going to be. And so we actually do have ideas in the VR space that no one is doing. Like I take a look and I see what people are doing in VR and I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited for what we have because no one is doing it. So I
want to hear about that.
We definitely want to do that. And I think the main thing is to get back to this idea of short form premium, right? I think I hear a lot, everyone talk about short form premium content. Mike, you're making premium content. And I think the thing is, we have to actually accept something. It's not premium unless people are willing to pay for it, right? Unless people are really actually willing to pay for it. Like until that happens, all you've done is made something that looks better than other things that people have made. To me, it's not premium just because it's shot on a Red camera, right? Like you actually have to create value for people. And whereas most other companies have decided to spend their money and their efforts to develop technology that actually often doesn't solve a need case for anybody, right? In order to advance this idea of premium, we actually are investing in content in order to create what we think is premium. So for me, that means getting to a point where we're creating work that people are either paying directly for or paying for things related to the work that we're making, right? And that's not a new model. I mean, that's Disney. You know, create the IP that people give a crap about, and then you can sell things related to it, and you can sell it directly to them. And that might begin with how-to videos, but it could end up being genre fiction. It could end up being viral games. You know, one of the advisors on our advisory board is this guy named Matt Inman. And Matt is the oatmeal. He's also the creator of Exploding Kittens. I mean, this is a $100 million company now, right? This was a card game that's a $100 million company. And it's because he had taken his ability of creating viral IP, created a game from that in itself was viral, in the way that if you play it, it's so much fun that other people will buy it who had just been introduced to it at their home, right? Mm-hmm. And now it has tremendous value. So what happens if we do that? If we start creating work that leads to that kind of success? I mean, the sky's the limit. So that's really my focus.
I would say there's one thing that maybe you're not doing that I would suggest would be to use your content as a platform to develop community and let the community find it connections and its own value, its own sort of, reason to pay for it. Mm-hmm. I think that hasn't been explored enough by content entities. There are so many brands that, for example, Star Trek, right? That has just a gigantic amount, a huge fan base that people pay, for everything. I'm not saying, your content would be more socially relevant or like you said, you might explore education. There are, I think, a lot of opportunities to create community around a particular show that you've got here or in the future.
Is like when I first made Cut, before it became this version of it, I did a version of it that was intended to be an equity crowdfunding site for movies and videos. The idea being like, if you can get people to invest in, Firefly or something, then mm-hmm. And now they have a piece of the success of Firefly, then not only are they investors in it and audience, they're also marketers of it, right? Like you've closed the loop. Instead of going from, going from like creator, and then the creator has to jump through all these different hoops to finally distribute it to an audience to see it. You've made it like, no, you've got the audience. The audience is deciding what they want to invest in, and they actually act as marketers. They're incentivized to market it because they have stake in it, right?
And
now,
curators as well.
Yeah,
and curators.
The problem with that is I proposed this and I had a lawyer go, "This is wonderful. It's a great idea." But the way it's set up, unfortunately, it's illegal because what you want to do wouldn't be able to work based on the way the SEC works right now. And it doesn't matter that the Jobs Act is set up in such a way that you could have unaccredited investors invest in this. Like there's so many restrictions on like anything that you want to make, that once you allow unaccredited investors to invest in, like you're really capped on how much you can raise, and then the amount of paperwork that gets like the burden is ridiculous basically. And so that's the reason why we didn't do that. Now I think that's a really great idea, and I think someone is going to do that in potentially using things like ICO. Like I could totally see somebody using ICO to create the type of thing that, for example, what if I created an ICO that allowed people to invest in it, and then based on that could submit ideas to the community, and then the community gets to decide on the things that get made, right? Like, I mean,
you're talking about initial coin offering ICO?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's one way that people could start to develop communities around that kind of stuff. I think for us, I see ways of developing community for cut.com, for our site, which could end up being like an app or whatever, that would encourage a community to kind of engage with us a lot better than what's existed to date. I have ideas for it, but we just simply don't have the resources right now to be able to go after that hard.
Well, and then you mentioned education. There's such an interest in providing actual, things that you could buy and then self-educate yourself. Mashable's just launched a bunch of stuff. Is that a direction you might go in, where you will offer sort of video content, but as science education, or how to do? That's of interest?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I started Cut, I started a digital humanities nonprofit with the director of content here, who's a visual anthropologist and actually teaches pop culture at the University of Washington. And our nonprofit was called Rogue Scholar. And the idea behind that was to engage the community in research in a way that would take it out of the ivory tower. So like creating innovative video-based pedagogies is super interesting to me. I would love to be able to do that. And one of the decks that I created before that equity crowdfunding site was one that was about developing content that is more utilitarian, that actually helps teach people something. And it was specific to a vertical, but where I would take it now is a bit different. And I have some ideas. So we'll probably start trying to do some stuff in that space, I would say, in the first half of next year after we raised our Series B.
Okay, just some quick numbers, and then I have one final question for you. Sure. How many views have you generated across the entire internet?
Billions? I honestly don't know at this point. I know it's more than a couple billion. We did 200 million. We did like 200 something million last month.
Do you know how many uniques that is?
Like unique people?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I have no clue.
And
we gained 500,000 new subscribers across Facebook and YouTube last month also.
One more sort of question would be, any new platforms you're looking at beyond Facebook or YouTube that you think have promise that you'd like to distribute into?
Yeah, we're talking to Snapchat right now about potentially doing a show with them. We have a concept that we're all really excited about. I think for us, like what we want to do on our end is test out how it would look on that platform, because obviously you're working in a vertical environment, and so like what is the language there for telling a story. So yeah, that's definitely a space that we're looking to play in.
I guess my final question is when it's all said and done, when you've finished your career a billion years from now, uh, what's going to tell you that you've had an impact on culture? What will make you feel like you've, you know, that you've accomplished what you set out to achieve?
I think it will be in the kind of discourses that I have with younger people. So one of the things that I do is my wife is a teacher and a counselor at a local high school. And every year I go in and I talk to the kids. And every year I notice like there's like either through pressure from their parents or from school or whatever, they become much more focused on treating themselves as almost like mini managers, right? Like their lives are a career in branding themselves and in achievement. And what I've noticed is like they rarely ever ask themselves what they want. Like literally, what do you want? Mm-hmm. I think I will feel like I will have gotten someplace when I start having conversations with kids and the conversations lead to more philosophical kind of reflections as to what they actually want, as if they've actually asked themselves those questions, and instead of being driven down a path, and I think that's when I'll feel like, oh, maybe I had a hand in that. But I don't know if you ever get to get a feeling of satisfaction. I know for me that one of the things that my team has noticed is that I'm never satisfied. And that's just, I think that's how you stay hungry, is like just never being satisfied. And I think I'll know I'm dead when I am satisfied.
I think you just want to communicate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So many great insights. I hope everybody will go check out cut.com, CUT.com, or on YouTube, Facebook. All these shows that you offer are absolutely entertaining and meaningful. And but like I said, I was just watching that one called One Word, which is various people, male and female, asked to come up with one word or a few words about something like mother or police. And it just makes you realize how beautiful human beings can be. Well, thank you so much, Mike. Mike Gaston is the CEO of cut.com, and we will see you very soon at our show coming up in New York on December 7th.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
This is Tracy Swedlow, Editor-in-Chief of Interactive TV Today and Radio ITVT, which is what this is, and the co-producer of the TV of Tomorrow show. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Newtown Radio, and all our brothers out there and sisters.